Welcome to Wild and Worthy, the podcast. We're your hosts, Elise.
I'm Zoe.
And together we unpack the wild ride called life and show you how worthiness is the stability you need.
This is your place where we keep things relatable and tame any unhinged behaviours. So buckle in and let's get wild and worthy together.
Hello. Welcome back, wild ones, worthy ones, whatever you choose to be today. Wow, another ep. Here we are, Zoe.
Episode 2, are you ready?
Now, first things first, a little bit of admin. We actually forgot something very important last episode. Something very important. I know.
I blame you. You're the organised one out of the two of us. What's going on?
Sorry. So, we came up with this quirky little thing that we're going to do every episode called Win and Whinge. And Zoe and I are going to come in hot with our wins for the week or in life generally and what we want to whinge about. Yeah, because life is a paradox. You get to be happy and sad, so you can have wins and whinge at the same time. It's not one or the other. You just get to have both. So this is something we're going to incorporate in every episode, and maybe we just got a little bit excited, a little bit wild, and just rushed into episode 1, and it kind of got left on the side.
We did say we were untamed, unhinged, and unfiltered. So we're human.
Keeping you on your toes.
I'll forgive you this time. All right, well, you kick us off. Let's go into your win and whinge for this week.
Great. So I'm going to start on my whinge because I like to end things off on a high. So my whinge this week I've had a little bit of a head cold, and I know there's lots of germs and bugs and things circulating out there, and you get to, believe whatever you want to believe in regards to illness and how it's, circulated or how you take it on. For me, it's very much a detox. I like to take anything on in my life as a sign that, okay, cool, it's something being cleared out. Yeah?
Yeah.
And recognizing that I've just had to rest a little more this week. I've actually had to cancel some calls and stuff, and that's okay because I hold myself with enough worthiness to rest. So,
resting can make a lot of us feel really guilty, hey?
Yeah, so many women out there holding on to guilt. So that's just been a little, shitty thing this week for me. Win, though, is I have just wrapped up holding a 3-day women's retreat in the Adelaide Hills.
Yay! I'm so proud of you. This is so exciting.
So transformational. So I am a facilitator with the Women's Space, and they're a women's personal development company, I guess, yet we collectively create space for women to unravel and connect and discover a sisterhood that perhaps they don't have, and we hold monthly events and we hold day retreats and transformational 3-day retreats. And anyway, I got to host one in my hometown, so that was so great. So that was definitely a win, and just no words, just great.
I love that. Where so many more women are actually creating good, healthy environments for women to flourish and heal and just thrive. And I love that.
Yeah, I could speak a lot about women. And you'll
Yeah, we definitely have a lot more of that coming up. So let's go with my win for this week. My win has been that I actually thought to myself, there is nothing stopping me. There is nothing holding me back. And the worst thing that anything will happen is someone just says no. And so I actually reached out to some of my all-time, idolized companies that I want to collab with, that I want to promote. And I got 3 very big yeses. So I'm so excited to work with these companies. And then my whinge with that, though, is social media. Obviously, a lot of us, we do show the glory moments, and I've always been very transparent and very relatable and just honest about life having highs and lows, and people love to see you do great, just not better than them. So my whinge is definitely that there's been a little additional internet trolling with that. There's a lot of people that get really disappointed that companies want to collab and work with me, and people just don't like to see other people thrive and flourish, and that really makes me sad because I just don't get it. My mum raised me to believe and to know that if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yes, love that. And definitely in the space that I work in is all about empowering you to be your best person, and then also be the best person and hold compassion and love for others.
Yeah.
Do it for yourself first and foremost, And then when you have more capacity within yourself, you have more capacity to hold others.
Well, you just can't pour from an empty cup, can you?
Exactly. Hello, Women's Retreat. If you're curious, like, have a look in the show notes. We're going to pop it in there.
Yeah. And well done to all the women who are tuning in, listening to this episode. Now, we are going to dive into episode 2, which is a little bit about my backstory, why I'm here, what my story is, what my purpose is, and sort of a little bit about my background. So I do want to put a disclaimer. We are going to be talking about some heavy topics. The mention of mental health and suicide does come up. So if you or anyone you know and love is struggling, to please know that there is always help out there and to reach out. I will also pop in the show notes some links to the likes of Lifeline, Black Dog, and Beyond Blue.
Yeah.
Should we get into
excited.
it?
Absolutely. And I'm excited to also, this episode is very much about you, and I think it's great that I can slide on in and give a little context and little reframes if, there's anything that comes up, to show you that, trauma is trauma. Like, hitting your toe on the tap is traumatic. Losing a parent is traumatic. And this isn't about, like, putting them into different categories. This is about just recognizing that the trauma response for everyone is the same. It's not, my brain, what's the word? It's not, I guess, identified with the story. It's just the response.
It's just what happens to us,
Yeah, definitely excited to, like, guide you and support you as you can tell your story today, and also drop in some little wisdom around how, if anyone is listening and maybe moving through some of their own grief or loss or life things, like, listen in and just tune into some of the little hot tips that we get to give you.
Yeah, this might be a very therapeutic session for me, who knows?
Exactly. Yay, coaching.
Okay, so diving into it, quite a lot of people do know my story. I've been quite transparent about it over the last few years. I started sharing my journey and my story on social media in 2018, and essentially my background is I was born in England, and when I was 10 months old, my parents moved out to Australia. My dad was Australian, my mum was British, and I was raised in Perth, Western Australia. I had a pretty okay-ish childhood from what I can remember up until sort of the age 7, and then I was more aware of my dad sort of in substance abuse and also being quite a heavy alcoholic, and then being more aware to the violence that was going on in our household. So when I was 7, my mum and I actually ran away to a women's refuge, and it's something you'll notice with my story. I can talk about it like I'm reading off a shopping list. I've done so much talking therapy over the years, and it's sort of just become... It's become like sort of... a book. Yeah, it's just a story that I tell, and it's not until I start to say it out loud again that I actually hear myself, and I'm like, wow, that was so traumatic, and you should have never gone through that.
Yeah, so from the coaching frame, that I work with, this is what we'd call, like, disassociate.
Yeah.
Right? So you disassociate yourself from what's happened. And you do this automatically to keep yourself safe. Yeah, because if you're associated and fully feeling and fully in that moment, it hurts. Yeah? And no one wants to be hurt. So it's like, well, I can't control, like, particularly as a kid, it's like, I can't control any of this and I don't know what's going on, so maybe if I just completely disassociate from it, i.e. it's almost like you leave your body in a way, yeah?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm just going to completely disassociate, because then I feel a sense of safety and I don't have to feel.
Yeah.
And so I think for you, you've done that for years and years and years. And only really in the last, 12 months to 2 years, you've had to come back and associate. And the reason you have to come back and associate is because you have to feel to heal. You can't think your way better.
Oh, and that's been one of the hardest parts of my journey to date. So there was a lot of that growing up, and then by the time I was 12, my parents finally separated. My mum sort of got away, and it was a struggle as a single mum. I knew that my mum couldn't really afford to feed me, house me, clothe me, and so I had a weekend job and a holiday job, and every time I could get out of mum's house and have dinner at a friend's house, I would. and I actually went and got myself kicked out of school because I knew mum couldn't afford the school fees and dad had stopped paying them. There was a lot of what we know to be nowadays coercive control. There was just so much manipulation, financial, physical, emotional, mental abuse that my mum endured. And looking back now, I don't know how she actually survived as long as she did in that environment. So I left school. I was 14. I was working with horses full time. And at the age of 16, I actually bought myself a one-way ticket to England, and I rode horses over there for a year before I actually came off and broke my ankle. And I'm just sort of fast-pacing through this time frame.
Yeah, we don't.
There's a lot that goes on. I was a teenager. Right? I was a bit reckless, you know.
However, I want to know, like at age 14, when you were working with horses, was that the first time you were really like introduced to horses?
No, I had been riding horses since I was about 6 or 7.
Okay, cool.
And then it sort of developed from there. And horses was always my outlet, my safety net, the one place where I could go and I could just decompress. However, when I started to become more a competitive rider, it was then like I was my dad's little trophy, and it was like, unless you're winning, you're not good enough of love, and you know you're going to have these horses, and then to punish you, we're going to take them away and sell them. So there was a lot of that kind of abuse that then I endured as a child as well. Yeah. So I was 16.
I was just going to say, I think it's really important, like no matter what you're moving through in life, is to have that outlet.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is for you, please stay away from drugs, alcohol, vaping, porn, sex. Like that's addiction. Not a great outlet. Yeah.
No. Like, and it doesn't. It also just puts on a Band-Aid and adds to the problem as well.
Yes. Like find something that you are just totally in love with, and that your brain almost switches off in that moment, right? Like I know for me, I love surfing, and so many surfers will say this, is like when you're literally on the wave, everything just stops and disappears.
Yeah.
And so it's
that's
like,
me riding a horse.
Yeah, how can you find that for yourself? Whatever it looks like for you, right? There is no right or wrong. Find that for you in your life and have that as an outlet. Or if things are feeling hard, or your kids are giving you the shits, or your husband's just being a bit of a knob and your work's annoying, like go do that for you. Yeah, and the biggest one for me, and I know so many women out there, is actually getting out into Mother Nature. Like, she has her own healing powers. So if you're unsure what your outlet is, go outside.
Get those dogs in the dirt. And if you don't know what that means, it's just go barefooted outside.
Barefoot,
Get those dogs in the dirt. Yeah, take the dogs as well.
Great.
So then I was 16. I'm riding in England. I'm having the time of my life. Everyone thinks I'm in my 20s. We're going to the pub quite a lot. And life is just really, really good until I have a pretty major riding accident. I crack my coccyx bone. I break my ankle. And the boss had actually shattered his leg the week before. And so he goes, sorry, Zoe, you're going to have to pack up your bags and head home. At that point, I think I was ready to come back to Australia. I was ready to be back with my mum. My mum had gone through the divorce process with my dad. She'd built herself a little house. It was near the beach. It was like I was going to do something totally different. And I came home and I hung out with mum, and it was great. And we had this super close bond. She was like my sister. She actually went and worked on the mines, and I went into the building industry, and I worked my way up sort of corporate ladder there, not for very long. I started as a receptionist and then went into sort of admin. Unfortunately, I was home only 9 months, and I sort of realised that there was some sort of patterns going on with mum. Her behaviour had changed. She'd had like a 40 kilo weight loss in a matter of, I think it was like 2 or 3 months. She'd gone from wearing all her daggy mum clothes to stealing all of my clothes, and back then I was tiny, and I just remember saying to her, like, what is actually going on? Like, there's something going on. And unfortunately my dad had sort of whittled his way back in, and he was trying to play happy families. I won't get into it. It's quite graphic. It's quite horrific. Essentially there was a big altercation in our house. And for the first time, my mum actually saw the physical violence at my dad's hands towards me, which she'd never in person witnessed before. And it essentially led to her having a nervous breakdown and she was put into the hospital. She was under doctor supervision for about 7 days. Dad had kidnapped her at some point during that. It was just turmoil. It was just horrendous. And 7 days after being out of the hospital, I had police knock on my door, and her body had been found, and essentially she'd taken her own life.
Yeah.
So from there, I had to navigate. I was 17. They were threatening to put me in foster home. I was only 2 weeks away from being 18. I had a boyfriend I was seeing a guy at the time, and the cops had actually called him and said, hey, we're about to give Zoe some horrible news. Can you go and be there for her? He and I were sort of forced into a relationship, I guess. He felt sorry for me, and we did fall in love. We were together for a little while, and I sort of had to navigate what life was as an 18-year-old. I'm now all of a sudden thrown into adulthood. I then had to sign a mortgage to take on my mum's home, which actually, thank you to that boyfriend's brother who was in banking and could actually navigate and help me do that.
Yeah, that's a win.
Yeah, huge win. Like, the way the universe actually protected me with the right people at the right time. And I navigated holding down a job and being in a relationship as an 18, 19-year-old. You know, we wanted to go out and party, and I was dealing with some very adult things, and I hadn't really had much parenting. My mum did the best she could, but essentially I'd been out in the world since I was 14 on my own, kind of winging life and doing whatever I pleased whenever I pleased. So that was quite interesting. I was very, very immature, considering I was dealing with very adult and grown-up issues.
Yeah, and I think it's a great opportunity to slide on in here, and you know, particularly when you reflect back on yourself as a teenager. And I was a very different teenager, and we'll get into my story in another episode. Yet majority of teenagers, they reach 15, 16, 17, 18, and they're like, yes, I'm an adult, I can do whatever the hell I want, I can just own my life, right? And so that's the approach they come from. And yet here you are with actual adult things in your life. Yeah, so many teenagers are like, I'm an adult, I want to act like an adult, I can do whatever the F I want. And then it's like, whoa, shit, actually I have adult things that I have responsibility for in my life.
I was 18 and paying a mortgage and finding renters to go in and dealing with lawyers and real estate agents.
I'm curious to know, reflecting back now on that version of you, so Zoe at 17 just found out her mum has passed and taking on a lot of adult things. Knowing the life that you've lived now and the work that you've done and all of the knowledge and the learnings and everything that you now live life through, what is one piece of advice that you'd want to give her now?
Oh, gosh. It gets harder before it gets better. Can I say that? I don't know. I think in that moment of time, I was like, this is as bad as it's going to get. This is as hard as it's going to get. And while my life completely flipped upside down, I had no idea ahead of me that there was so much greatness. I was so successful. I did things that people only imagine of dreaming of. And also I went through more challenges, more turmoil, more difficulty. And also I feel like 17, 18-year-old Zoe was so wise and so mature, and she didn't really party. And then it was kind of like a post-traumatic situation where then in my 20s, I was kind of like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm a little unhinged. I'm a little chaotic. I'm seeking other people's approval, and I really needed probably some structure and discipline. Overall, I look back, I'm very proud of who I became. And there was definitely some behaviours in there of mine that, I'm not necessarily proud of. However, I think under the circumstances, I did the best I could.
Yeah.
And everything, I believe, has purpose and meaning.
Yeah. Everything, it's great when you get to this stage in your life, which we're both still evolving and learning and growing, right? You really have some kind of stability in your life, and it's in those moments where you actually get a moment to breathe and reflect and be like, look back on the person you have been and become, and recognize, like, wow, it was all a lesson, and it actually has shaped me for who I am today. So this is like a key language shift here, right? Because I see so many women say, oh, it defined me. Yeah? Now, nothing in life defines you, because again, it's a choice, yet it can shape you. Like, just imagine if the timeline was different and your mum was still around. Like, who knows where you would be?
Yeah. I can't even picture a life like that now.
Yeah, like, you wouldn't even be a social media influencer. You potentially wouldn't even have your 2 beautiful children that you have right now. You wouldn't have had to do the work that you're doing and traveled and all of the things. Like, yes, could it have been better? Maybe.
Sure.
Yet it could have been even worse. Perhaps you were, like, going to be a carer for your mum. And so this isn't just taking you back and being like, oh, but what if this? Recognizing, being like, well, you know what? Yes, it was hard times, and now it's defined me into the woman I am today. And I'm actually grateful for that. Because without those life lessons, like, perhaps I wouldn't show up with so much confidence, with so much worth, with so much tenacity to keep doing the things, because I know that I've been through hard things. And so I know I can do it again.
I think that was always the purpose of my platform too, right? Was I went through all of this. I wanted to be a voice. I wanted to be my mother's voice, because I remember, and I've said this, I actually was a guest on someone else's podcast, and I remember so vividly my mum's coffin lowering on her funeral, and remembering that I was not going to let her death be in vain, and that from someone's life, oh, sorry, my phone is beeping, that somewhere in life I was going to help somebody else.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful legacy, right? Like, you get to take all of the learnings, and even through this episode today, like, by you telling your story, I know there's going to be listeners out there that are going to resonate with it. And so without your story and without what you've been through, like, and I know with, you know, collaborations and projects that you've done in the past, like Dust Off Depression and all of that, and speaking roles, and all of that has helped so many people. And the only reason that came about was because of what you had lived through up until that point.
What's so interesting, going back as well, about things defining us, was for such a long period of time, that's all my social media was the constant repetitive speaking of my mum's story, my own personal journey with depression, doing Dust Off Depression, which, mind you, is coming back. It's coming back stronger than ever. It's going to be a very slow, smooth launch this time. And using my platform to speak about those things, I was defined for a very long time. She's the mental health girl. She's the girl that talks about suicide. And that played really heavy and weighed really heavy on me for a long time, because as much as I wanted to help other people, I'm not a therapist, and I'm not equipped to provide guidance or support in a huge capacity that people sort of put that expectation of me, and I was sort of drowning, so I had to save myself first. And now it's funny, because I feel like my identity, or what defines me, which it doesn't, because I get to pick and choose, right? However, now it's more, a lot of people reach out and they're like, oh, you're the Western fashion influencer girl. Or you're the single mum girl, or you're the girl on the internet trying to find your husband. So
and you know, it's beautiful, because you get to have these, you know, different aspects of yourself, and it's like, well, you know what, it's not just this. I can be this and this, and together I can just be Zoe. You know, it's a bit like, I think we were speaking last week before we jumped on the app, it's like, you can be wild, yet you own it as well.
I literally get to choose what version of myself I am each and every day. Every hour of the day I can change from morning to evening, which quite often I do.
Yay. Okay, cool. So you're 20, you've been with a partner, you're taking on lots of adult responsibility, life, jobs, mortgage, house, renters. What about mid-20s? What happened there?
Mid-20s, it's a blur. Obviously, that first relationship of mine ended, and credit to him, it was just too much. I think we were kids, you know, and he was thrown into almost like a carer type role for my emotional well-being, because I didn't know how to emotionally regulate myself. So that relationship ends, and then I find myself working on cattle stations because at this point I'm homeless, I need a job, I need food on the table. And so I sort of drifted for a period of time around the city and tried to stay in that corporate world, and it just wasn't making me happy. And so my history and my background of riding horses, and I did go to an agriculture college during year 8, 9 and a portion of year 10. And so a friend who I'd gone to high school with was like, girl, just go work on a station. Like, it'll provide a house, it'll provide a meal, it'll provide a family because you're very lonely. And so I found myself working cattle stations, and then that essentially is what I've done on and off for the last decade of my life, which is crazy to say that. I feel so old.
So crazy.
And in that period of time, I had a baby. I had a baby girl all by myself, and I did go back to working cattle stations when she was very little, and then met who was the love of my life, and we met during COVID. We had another baby, and we were together for a couple of years. We got married, and then unfortunately that relationship ended, and I blame my mental health on that as well. I think there's obviously it takes two to tango, but I take full accountability and acknowledge where my downfall of that relationship was. Having two kids under two.
So I was just going to say, I think that, like, just popping in there, that awareness really has only landed for you in the last couple of years. Like, recognizing where you played a part. Yeah. And, you know, this is the beautiful thing that, you know, I know we mapped out together, is that you can have really hard things happen in your life, and it's where, as humans, we're very quick to just blame the other person. Because blaming the other person unconsciously makes yourself feel better for perhaps the action that you played. And really, we don't want to make ourselves feel bad. Yeah, because our ego is like, oh, we're the best. Like, I'm like, you know, everyone loves me. And so I'm not going to put myself down. And so this is why we're so quick to judge and so quick to blame. And yet when you start unraveling what's been and who you are as a person, it's like, okay, great, now I can see how I played a part. Was it wrong? No. Because really, I think, particularly in that scenario for you, you were very much in survival mode, and you were literally doing the best you could with the resources you had and the knowledge that you knew and the learnings that you were living life through.
Yeah. Oh, it all worked out for the best, that's for sure.
Yes.
And I've gotten a little too comfortable taking accountability. I'm the first person to be like, oh, sorry, I messed up, you know. Oh, like, I take account. I've gotten so comfortable now, and you and I have spoken, and we can dive into this in another episode, where I've gotten too good at being, I made the mistake, or
there is a bit of a fine line, right?
Yeah, because there is sometimes where it's like you don't need to, you don't need to constantly apologize for showing up or doing what was right for you in those moments. Yes. So definitely what I've learnt working with you has been self-awareness, accountability, and just recognizing as well how much I've grown as a person from all those years and all those different situations. How confident I am to just be me, and when something happens to me or when someone says something negative to me now, how quickly it is shown to me and just bounces straight back off.
Such a great concept that we'll hopefully dive into a bit more.
Yay.
So where are you at now? Like, we'll probably go a little bit more into another ep around, you know, what we do, what's happening in our life right now. You separated from your husband, and then...
I've been single 2 years now, a little over 2 years. Single mum, freelancing. We spoke about this in the last episode. I'm a VA, which I never saw coming in a million years. I'm sort of in a new chapter. I'm in a new set of challenges in life. I am navigating working and living in an environment that I don't necessarily love. I'm much closer to Brisbane. I'm sort of in the city at the moment. It's very different from what I enjoy doing. I'd much rather be out on a cattle station somewhere. And I'm navigating a whole new... It's coming. I'm manifesting it. You better believe it. You better believe it. So Yeah, my challenges at current is that I am actually currently living with my ex-husband, which is, it blows people's minds when I talk about it online.
Oh, they love to have their 2 cents worth.
Oh, they think I'm insane, which, I mean, they're not wrong.
And really, this is a great example of society's beliefs and norms around what is appropriate. Yeah? And if you're listening to this, I want you to think about, okay, cool, well, if you think it's inappropriate for Zoe to live with her ex-husband, that, you know, at times was quite horrific, yet when did you decide to believe that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who told you?
All it is just a belief. All it is that someone's told you that you can't live with your ex, and then you've decided to take that belief on. The beautiful thing about beliefs is you get to change them. And I know for you, Zoe, you've changed it, because there was a time in your life where you're like, you know, I'm never seeing that man again.
Oh,
and
yeah.
yet here you are, coexisting and beautifully co-parenting the children together.
Define beautifully. We have our challenges. It's not perfect. Go with the
positive, yeah? Nah.
Yeah, we'll go with the positive on this one. But we really, definitely have a very civil... It's amazing how much we have both grown up, essentially, in the last couple of years, because it went from he wouldn't even make eye contact to me, whereas now we will actually go out and do things as a family, like sporting events for the kids, and like he's in a new relationship, he's got a great career. I'm navigating my career. I'm navigating dating as a single mom. I've been, you know, doing that for the last couple of years. I definitely have very high standards, and I'm navigating what feels really good for me and what I will and won't tolerate and what I do and don't want for my life. Overall, though, life is pretty stable. I have a lot more help with the kids. I have a lot more support. I'm very heavily invested in the community. I volunteer, and life, I guess, is not exactly where I want it to be. However, it's been a lot worse than this, so I will take where I'm at as a win, and I'm very grateful for that.
You know, there was a time at the end of last year where we were working together, and one of the key things you wanted when you were moving through some pretty heavy stuff was, I just feel like I want some support. Yeah. Like, I'm doing everything alone. Yeah. And it's like, okay, cool. And then the universe has put you in this maybe odd yet amazing, really, situation, which I would, and I always say to you, see it as a stepping stone. So you're currently in a stepping stone position where you actually have more support. Like, do you like the bloke? No, not really. You just coexist. Yet it really is working beautifully for you as a person. And what I mean by that is that you actually have more support at your fingertips, and it's allowing you to live a life for you. Like, i.e., we would have never caught up in March if he wasn't there to look after the kids. Yeah. And you wouldn't have been able to go down to Tamworth the other month if he wasn't there to look after the kids. And so it's all about flipping the script and being like, okay, cool, well, if this isn't my ideal situation, how is this a stepping stone? How can I utilize it to the best of my ability?
Just having gratitude for everything, you know, having gratitude for the scenario that we're in. And honestly, it's just in my children's best interest that we are co-parenting and cohabitating, and just being civil with one another is something that I'm really proud of us both for doing for the sake of our children.
Yeah, and at the same time, you're also just showing society what can be done.
I've always shown society things that are a little bit different, a little bit quirky, and
a bit wild. It's a bit wild to go and move back in with the ex. A little bit wild. Here we go.
I don't recommend it. However, it is what it is.
It's working.
It's working.
Yay! That's great. I feel like, you know, it's going to evolve both of our stories, and, you know, there's snippets out there that you might be like, oh, I forgot this. And really, I'm a big believer that whatever comes out on these episodes is meant to be heard and listened to. And
whatever is meant to be will be.
Sometimes we don't need to rehash everything.
Exactly.
What's been.
With that, we are getting to the stage where we probably need to wrap up, and although I could go on for far longer, let's not bore our listeners. So I will see you over in episode 3.
Yay. no idea what we're talking about, and we'll just wing it along the way.
Let's figure it out when we get there.
Yay. See you over there.
See ya. Thanks for listening. Bye.